I will ask Beverly to call the roll and read our agenda. Here.
Greg Riker.
Here.
Jay Ward.
Here.
Lisa Cohen.
Here.
Here. Bill Walker. Animal Herring.
Here.
The agenda for the Swanzey Zoning Board of Adjournment meeting of August 21st, 2023 is as follows. Regular meeting of the Swanzey Zoning Board of Adjustment be held on Monday, August 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m. beginning at 11 Sylvan Way for a site visit and will be continued at 7 p.m. at Wisdom Hall, 17 Main Street, Swanzey. The public may also access the hearing portion of the meeting via Zoom by going to www.zoom.us using the Zoom application or by calling 929-205-6099 and entering meeting ID number 235-370-4380. And there's more information on public access to the meeting available on the town's website at www.swanzeynh.gov. Sidewalk, 6 p.m., 11 Sylvan Way. Call to order, 7 p.m., 17 Main Street, Swanzey, New Hampshire. The minutes will be considered for July 2023. The regional impact vote will be held, followed by public hearings. ZBA number 23-015, special exception application. GRAZ Engineering LLC has requested a special exception pursuant to section 5, article B2B of the Zoning Ordinance on behalf of Jamison Vandyke for property owned by Robert E. McLean, 1993 Trust, for an 18-unit multifamily use at 11 Sylvan Way. Such a property is shown at tax map 37, lot 22 in the business district. It is a continuation from the July 17th public hearing, and other business as may be required.
Thank you very much. We have minutes that have been provided to us from our July 17th, 2023 meeting. Present at that that are here are myself, Brian, Ann, Lisa, and Jay. To entertain a motion on these minutes.
Move we accept the minutes.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of July 17th, 2023 as presented. Any question on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Regional impact vote. Before we go on to that, I think what I'd like to do, since we have one public hearing tonight, I'm going to sit Adam for Bill Walker. I guess it's a 5-person board, so seated for this will be myself, Brian, Adam, Ann, and Lisa. Now, regional impact vote. Does anyone here on the board believe that this particular application rises to the level of having regional impact?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to say that this particular application does not meet the criteria for a regional impact.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a second?
Yeah, second.
Thanks, Ann. Been moved and seconded that there are no agenda items tonight that will be taking up that, excuse me, that rise to the level of having a regional impact. Any question on the motion? All those in favor, please indicate so by raising your right hand. Thank you. Seems like it passes. We'll move on to public hearings. Public hearings, ZBA 23-015 special exception application. We're here for a public hearing. GRAZ Engineering LLC has requested a special exception pursuant to section 5, article B2B of the Zoning Ordinance on behalf of Jamison Vandyke for property owned by Robert McLean, 1993 Trust, for an 18-unit multifamily use at 11 Sylvan Way, subject property shown at tax map 37, lot 22 in the business district. This is a continuation from the July 17th public hearing. And just to reiterate, I will seat Adam for Bill. For this is a public hearing. we will ask the applicant to do a full explanation of what they're attempting, what they're applying for here. I know some of it was shared at a site walk, but I'd like us to, in essence, start from the beginning and have you give us information right from the beginning. And then after that after the presentation is complete, this is a public hearing, we will allow interested folks to provide testimony on this application. And we ask only that we keep information, we keep our decorum here. And that secondly, that if an issue that has already been addressed, we ask not to repeat it again. If you have new issues, that is what we're looking to hear as we move along. So I will allow the folks to give us an explanation of what you're trying to do. As I said, we had a site walk, but let's presume that there are many people out here that weren't there, have maybe not seen this, so let's make sure we're complete in the explanation of what you're looking to do. Thank you.
My name is Joshua Dalton. I'm here with GRAZ and representing Vandyke for the property at 11 Sylvan Way, located in the business district, and we're proposing to construct two new multifamily residential dwelling structures that are going to be 8 units per structure and convert the existing structure that's there into a 2-unit structure. And this multi-family development is allowed by a special exception in the business district for zoning. So you can see, if I speak without the microphone, people hear me. If you see here, this is going to be a building along the back property line here, and then one of the new structures is going to be along the side property line there. Those buildings are about 132 feet long and 34 feet wide. They're each going to contain 3 bedrooms. So there's going to be 45 parking spaces for the parking regulations required. That's 2.5 spaces per unit. We're also proposing landscaping for a screening buffer around the proposed development, so there's going to be arborvitae trees around the back here, and then bigger trees along the side, so blue spruce along the back there. You can see, you have the plan in front of you as well.
Thank you.
There's a double dash and dotted line that runs outlining here. That's all area that is proposed to be used for saltwater infrastructure. So there's going to be an infiltration basin there that's going to handle all of the additional depends on the image of the building. They're similar to some other structures that are allowed in building, in businesses that we don't, such as a hotel or a nursing home type development. And there's also maps in front of you that are colored, I believe those are in your packet. Those are showing some of the multi-family developments that currently exist in the surrounding area.
See this, it's in the packet. There's one thing.
Business district with the other districts around it. The red property on the map opens up. This red property is the subject property, and these green properties around are multi-family developments that are in place. Notably, one up here on Route 12, there's apartments up there. There's also a motel right near the roundabout on Route 12 and Lake Street. There's also an apartment complex up the road on Route 32, and those are all within about a half mile of the site that was proposed. As far as the rest of the landscaping that's going to be happening here, we're going to be going through that process for a site plan to the planning board. We'll meet all of the regulations. These pictures that I'm putting out are of a project that was done by the builder, Jamison Vandyke. It's essentially going to be the same buildings that are there with similar landscaping, with the exception that the roof line is going to have a third floor single bedroom. You can see that on the reverse side of this. There's right here. The third story up there is going to have a third bedroom. These buildings are 29 feet high, so that's less than the 45.
Just wait, Lisa.
And the existing structure that's out there right now is 26 and a half feet high, so if you can imagine, it's about 2 feet higher than the existing structure that's there.
Anything else?
I can open up the questions.
Well, we'll take questions from the board here, and then we'll open it up to the public. Okay?
I know you did the traffic study, and it may be true that there's not much impact, but I'm a little concerned that the traffic study appears to ignore the fact that there are 300 units of housing going in on Route 32 shortly, and so that your study doesn't include the fact that there's already mandated additional housing on the highway that's going to cause more traffic. So I'm not sure I could even consider your traffic study valid.
It's the same part of that question is that you did your study in the summer, not when there's children in school. So the school bus that we heard about earlier, which, there's several school buses to pick up children, that wasn't part of the study. That's not valid.
Please, you'll have your chance. You'll have your chance, please. Thank you.
I also have a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Comment on the traffic study. So you did that July 31st through August 1st.
Yep.
And as Ann said, school's not in session, so you didn't have to deal with the school buses. I want to know how the traffic study addresses the fact that there will be maybe 36 plus children standing in Sylvan Way, at the end of Sylvan Way, waiting for the bus in the winter with its snowbanks, and possibly 18 cars lined up on Sylvan Way with the parents keeping warm, waiting for their kids to get on the bus. How does the traffic study address that?
The traffic study does not address school buses.
It should address the Sylvan Way and how that will be impacted. I'm assuming. there's no other place for these children to stand other than in the road on Sylvan Way. And we're talking at least 36 kids just from that development, not to mention the kids who already live in the neighborhood. So there'll be 40 some odd kids standing, and we all saw how congested it was with this bus there. I think we need a lot more thorough traffic study.
The DOT has also been reached out to, and they looked at this, and they didn't see any issue.
But
We should look at the impact of additional housing units going in, as well as school buses. But as far as the children standing in the road, I would say they probably just have to stand along the road and it's a mile line.
Madeline?
The question, Ann?
Moving on from the question regarding, I think
Well, hold on. You're done with traffic study?
I'm done with traffic.
Can I interject?
Please do.
So I have a question. So my question is, I also live on a dead-end street in this neighborhood. And if we added the amount of cars that are potentially going to be added, it would have an impact of more than 10 vehicles a day, which you're saying here is the increase of about 10 vehicles.
That's during the peak hour.
Okay.
It's basically assuming that not all 45 cars are leaving at the same time.
All right, Ann.
But during that peak hour is when those kids are waiting to get on the bus, and the parents are lined up on the side of the road with their cars running, keeping the kids warm. And there's going to be a lot more than 10 cars lined up on the side of that road.
Not sure what LCT stated they didn't take into account school safety at all, or school bus pickup and that kind of thing when they did this.
That's assuming the parents that care. My dad would let me stand outside.
Okay, I have a non-traffic question.
I want to, may I interject real quick?
Yes, please do.
It's still in the vein of traffic, so
Yes.
might as well
Go
keep
ahead.
this. So I noticed, just like everybody else did, I counted how many cars were currently parked while we were at that site visit. There was about 18 vehicles. And that was 18, not the 45 potential that could be in that particular parking lot. Now, granted, when you showed the current width of that driveway being 10 feet, it's tough to visualize what it would look like, twice as wide, but about the same width as the current road of Sylvan Way. Would that be accurate?
Correct, yeah, but there's going to be parking spaces on the interior of the lot, and that pavement is going to extend all the way back to the river of the Texas dock. So that those trees are all going to be coming down, and that whole area is going to be covered. So if we look on the plan here, this dotted circle line here, that's the edge of that proposed pavement that whoever the sidewalk saw. And we're proposing to extend the parking lot all the way back here. So even past those stakes that some of you saw to the back corner there, the parking would be much, much larger than it currently exists. So there's 24 feet in the site plan regulations to be able to pull out into a lane and turn around a vehicle, and we expect that.
Well, I think my question is more onto coming from the proposed structure and the proposed parking lot on Sylvan Way itself. We've seen as a board many traffic studies on 32, some of the recent ones you have mentioned here. And the state, I believe at this point, DOT comes in involvement as it relates to 32. Just
Only for 32. They don't do traffic studies on dead ends.
As it relates to Sylvan Way, who from our town manages would that be the oversight?
Yeah, Joe DeRusso.
Okay.
DOT for anything involving 32, but they also.
So for clarification,
Comments from them, emails during.
I was reading through them.
yeah, so for clarification, Joe would and did correctly defer us back to the state.
Yeah.
Right, because that's a state-owned highway. Swansea has nothing to do with it. However, dead-end streets and side streets are not there's no traffic studies on side streets and dead-end streets, and Swansea doesn't perform them, nor do we have the equipment to perform them. So he wouldn't have any idea.
Lisa, I think you're up. Okay. Other questions of the board?
And
Oh, Ian, I'm sorry. You
I
were the
had a
one that was up.
question,
Yep.
regarding the third floor. Are those, and just because I'm looking at the drawings, is that in the front of the, those are in the back of the building? So the third floor would be facing away from, or towards the back of the property line,
I believe so.
and the left side?
Yeah, so the proposed building will be facing the wood line, which would be the rear.
So the rear, okay, so they're in the back on the, if you're facing the property, they're on the left-hand side facing the property line, and on the far rear, as far away from the fire truck as possible. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions of the board?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I mentioned this when we were out there. The zoning regulations require you to have 44 and a half spaces parking, and you have 45. But you also are going to be required to put landscaping in the middle of that parking lot. And I don't see how you can get 45 spaces if you had landscaping in the middle of it and allow turning radius for the fire truck. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's something we haven't looked at yet. There is a 60-foot wide space there, and you only need 24 feet wide back out here, right around. So basically, what we're showing here is that we do have space for those 45 spaces, parking spaces, but we haven't dove into really the landscaping design yet. We might have to move some stuff around, maybe close to the property line there, if it's required for a fire truck turnaround, or add some islands that a fire truck will get around, but there is plenty of width within the parking spot itself right now.
I understand there's plenty of width that you could put in some islands of landscaping and so on, but then I'm worried about the fire truck turning around. That's my issue.
Yeah, that's something we're gonna have to look at, but these buildings also all have a quite a bit of
And the other concern about fire department is that the truck is not going to be able to get around the back side of these eight unit buildings. So that means that the fire department's going to have to carry ladders around the back to get up to the third story in the windows. And we don't have a comment from the fire department around whether or not they could fight the fire here in the three-story building. Yeah, it's about water, yeah. So I'm a little concerned about that in terms of hazard to people in the property. But it's a marginal concern, I guess, for the zoning regulations. It makes the proposed plan look a little bit, well, I also want to just state that I looked it up, and you're absolutely right about the patios not being covered as a structure. I read the definition in the.
Unless they're made of cement.
Really? Because it says it right in the back in the definition of structure.
I thought it was only if they're cement, they're considered part of the.
Well, I think it might be necessary to read that because it was a concern of the residents.
Yeah.
So.
I do have.
Julius?
Yeah. Okay. So it reads, anything constructed with a fixed location in the ground or attached to something having a fixed location with the ground. There's a little more talks about how those sheds and gazebos. And when we're talking about, most importantly, it says items such as underground waste disposal systems, driveways, water wells, fences, retaining walls, gates, signs, lampposts, mailboxes, flagpoles, wall coverings, stairs, walkways, and uncovered patios are excluded from this definition of structure.
Okay.
So that's how it's determined.
Okay, so just a second, please. So if there are multi-levels, are there multi-levels on these patios?
Patio?
Okay,
Just pads, right?
all right, thank you. Sorry.
From the code perspective, like the code perspective, those are things, and any homes supported by the ground, by some bricks, pavers,
And just for clarification, what are you guys proposing in terms of what those patios would be specifically? So it would be additionally all the way across the entire backside of the one continuous slab?
No, they're,
Well, they're kind of like one of the slabs basically centered between each unit. So the idea is for each unit to have a 10 by 10 patio area.
Okay, I see.
and my other question is, this is market rate housing, is this what this is? Is this, there's no restrictions on who might live there, is what you're saying, what we're saying?
That's the question for, yeah.
The question for who?
For Jamie, this is the builder.
Yeah, so it's market rate housing, right? Okay, so there definitely might be children there. Okay. And so, are there gonna be, I mean, places for children to hang out, like patio, but not the parking lot?
He is planning to do a playground, but the exact location of that is going to be determined once we do a full stormwater design. So it's going to likely be along this property line somewhere here, but its placement is going to be kind of based on where the infiltration basin has to go as well.
I just would hope there is something so that children aren't out in the parking lot. Of course, I would be out there if I were a kid.
Other questions from board members? It's not your only chance, but before we open up the public hearing.
Julius, was the fire chief,
Notified, yes.
and he had no input?
No comments from the fire chief.
Of course not. Okay.
Adam?
One last question for you guys, and then I think I've asked quite a bit here. So, the Planning and Economic Development Department, okay, here we go, I'm just trying to see. I have concerns, this is in our packet, our concerns, comments with the application as follows. Connections to North Swansea Water and Fire Precinct shall comply with the precinct's water ordinance. The precinct does not guarantee water volume nor pressure availability. Property owners should be responsible for any facilities, fences, and the connection fees required for potable water and or fire protection. There was a comment at the site that kind of referenced this, and I just wanted to hear from you guys. Do you feel there's a concern in terms of water pressure or anything as it relates to water or sewage for this particular application?
No, we don't know. I don't know how much is there, but there's options such as a booster pump, booster pressure, if that's something that has to happen. As well as a real issue, which I doubt it is here, then we things like storage, water storage facilities, underground, and it's expensive, so we know that the flows are okay, which I'm guessing they are, but there's offices.
And in that vein, would there be adequate, if that was a necessity, are there adequate space within this property to warrant a storage tank?
Well, you can do underground storage as well.
I understand, but it looks like the majority of this lot seems to be parking lot and or.
But that's what I would say. You could do underground and pack under the parking lot.
Under the parking lot, okay.
Which likely won't have that. There's probably a lot of that. So I think it has to be a water, water pressure. Shower upstairs.
Well, I'm one of the water commissioners. So will that be a wet or a dry charged sprinkler system?
I don't know that.
That will affect the water pressures through that area.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
You'll have plenty of chances yet, so. All right, we're gonna open it up to the public. We ask that you, to the extent feasible, you come to the podium and state your name. We would prefer this to be questions, not necessarily comments per se, but as much as we can, if we could direct the questions kind of to the board, and we'll have our applicants answer those questions. So just state your name when you come to the podium.
My name is Richard Algini. I live on 8 Sylvan Way.
Thank you.
I recently move to Sylvan Way because it is near my family. And obviously, and that road is pretty convenient for me right now. There's not a lot of traffic on that road. It's greatly going to affect me and our nieces and nephews, knowing that they're not going to widen that road. Talking about all the traffic that is on there, we haven't really talked about where the snow removal is going to go. If we have a 1-foot snowstorm, that's a lot of cubic feet of snow that they have to move. I have great concerns about this, folks. It seems like there are a lot of questions that we all have that they have been unable to answer. I see that Jameson's lawyers kind of laughing at my questions here, but I think there are too many things wrong with this right now to move ahead with this. This is a small, dead-end road, almost like a cul-de-sac. The way it's set up now is just about maximized for how many people live on that road. And we're going to be adding how many more people and cars and traffic and water usage? There are just too many questions, folks. You can't allow this to go through like this. This isn't a main drag. It's off 32. If it was closer to 12, I can see how you as a board would be interested in the best interest of this town. I don't believe this is in the best interest of the town to be right there. I have a lot of questions. My family living at the end, the amount of water that is going to be used, the sewer that's going to be used, drainage, my elderly neighbors across the street who are going to live as you face the buildings to the right there. Is all that water going to go on there? There are too many things, folks, that I believe have not been well thought out. And I ask you to not move forward with this. Not here. Not here. If they're truly altruistic, I think we should find a place for them to go. I understand what they're talking about, but it's the wrong spot, folks. I know you're going down. Thank you.
Do you have any response to any of the comments?
Yeah, a couple of things for the questions that you have in there. The snow story is all going to be along that right side. I think that's that stormwater area. And snow story also for that part. And as far as the traffic on Sylvan Way, we're expecting 11 added AM peak hour trips and 14 added PM. 11 AM and 14 peak hour.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before Mr. Willett comes to the mic,
Sure.
do you want to set the expectations of what our purview is?
Explain what we have to consider.
What we're allowed to do here and what we're not allowed?
Would you like to do that?
He's good at it.
I want to make sure you cover what I don't want to miss anything.
I think that a lot of the things that we're raising here, and some of it was raised by us as well, okay, because we're members of your community. We live down the street from you. But there's only 4 criteria that by law we're allowed to visit and consider. We can have all the input we want, but most of what we're talking about really is under the planning board if it makes it that far. Legally, we're only allowed to consider these 4 elements, and that's it. Anything outside of that, we're just not allowed to by law. So I just want to make sure that we understood that.
The realize that this designation isn't correct for that area. That's not correct designation.
Yeah, so that gets into the zoning, right? And even though we're the zoning board, the zoning maps aren't charged by us. They're charged by the planning board and select board.
The town.
Then, so it's the town, and it goes in front of the voters, and it's nothing to do with this board. Now, I'm not saying we disagree, I'm just saying it's nothing to do with this board. We don't have any say in it whatsoever. But I understand what you're saying.
I think we can agree that business district being zoned as business.
That's the legal definition, we really.
It's not accurate. It's, I understand.
And that's
it's
to be,
legal.
that's to be brought up at town meeting, that's the, and with the planning board in advance to try to make any of those changes. What's that? Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I do want to acknowledge what you're saying. We understand that it's a business district, but there's houses there, we get it. There's plenty of areas in Swanzey that are, I gotta be careful, that are potentially could be changed to a different type of zoning,
I understand.
right?
Yes.
But Swansea has morphed over the years. It used to be factory towns. We're not factory towns anymore. We're just not, so, but that's above us.
That, yeah, what up?
Down the left, I don't get 7 full
I'm sorry. Sir, can we take that in, please?
down the left.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like I don't get 7 Homestead Highway, and 3 Pack Street, that's one. Number 1, traffic study is here. It's on Mondays and Fridays, in the middle of the summer, the least amount of traffic, and that's noted back. We have areas that people take long weekends to vacation. Set my phone on and did it. Traffic study is going to the traffic that you guys all just experienced coming out of it wasn't pleasant. And my driveway is not a parking spot when they travel. They go. It's just congested. That is a lot of traffic. Any new traffic study, that's correct, because what they did was deep. I'm sorry about it.
Thank you.
My name is Carol McIntyre, we live at 67 Old Homestead Highway. We've been there for 36 years. The entire property of 11 Sylvan Way backs onto our backyard. We live in a very small, quiet, residential neighborhood, nestled between Route 32 and the airport. And much to everyone's surprise, the airport is very quiet. In reference to question number 1, granting a special exception, this is not an appropriate location for the proposed size of this project and the density of this project. The multifamily units with required apartment spaces is far too big for this neighborhood. The neighborhood around 11 Sylvan Way is predominantly single-family houses, with a few original single-family houses now converted to multifamily homes. Each lot has a plenty of green space. The proposed multifamily structures with blacktop parking spaces would completely change our neighborhood. Each unit will have 3 bedrooms, housing potentially 54 adults, 1 adult in each room, or 36 adults and 36 children, 2 adults and 2 children, or even 18 adults and 72 children, 1 adult and 1 kid. The pavement of the 4 to 5 parking spaces take up the entire open space. The units are rented to 3 adults per unit, 54 adults. There is a 960 adults in a park. There's no public transportation. If the units are rented to families, and some of these are past this too, where the children are. The site plans don't show any designated play area. And where is the green space for two, that's something we'll put on, and the road to the airport is very dangerous for walking. Thinking about the hydrology of it, 1.52 acres will consist primarily of apartment buildings and paved blacktop. Where will the water go? Has the storm water runoff analysis been done?
Oh, yeah, please, analysis level, there's about 7,000 square feet worth of there, it's a very flat site, it's, map is all being sand, so it's really.
A little aside, we are on a glacial sand deposit. But the stormwater has to stay on this property. It should not and cannot go on to the adjacent property. There is space for that. According to question number one, Sylvan Way is not an appropriate location for this project, for this project. Question two is really tricky. I consulted with a realtor and was told that reducing the value of one's property is practically impossible, especially with the volatile real estate market today. However, the size and density of 18 units with 45 additional cars and 18 outside patios would exponentially increase the noise factor in our very quiet residential neighborhood. Swanzey zoning regulations require a 20-foot setback on the sides and rears of property. If a patio is part of the 20-foot setback, and a buffer zone be created, they're in that 20-foot.
Correct, yeah.
Is there any way to create a further buffer zone?
Yeah, we're showing that here with everybody agrees on the property line.
That would be a buffer from the patio?
It is a visual buffer, yeah.
Okay. Yes, this project question number two would be loud, obnoxious, and offensive. Too large with only buildings and blacktop. It is a quiet neighborhood nestled between two and the airport. In answer to question three, there definitely has vehicles and pedestrians to the side of the project. There are 45 parking spaces designated in the plan, adding 45 more cars to North Swanzey. How many of you tried to get out of the Route 2 from Route 32? Route West. How many of you tried to get out of Route West from Route 32? Even the new roundabout is okay until 50 minute driveway. Yes, this project would, inside the project would be loud, obnoxious, and offensive. Too large, with only buildings and blacktop for this quiet neighborhood. And question number three. Question number three for the house. Comment on it. The roundabout seems good. I suspect the traffic study did not assess traffic from 6 to 4 p.m. or nor on Spring morning. There are no sidewalks along Woodford Street, Washington Avenue. Sylvan Way is a dead-end street. Heaven forbid if something happens and the residents have to be evacuated. Adding 45 more cars would be disastrous. This project definitely has a negative impact on vehicles and pedestrians as well as potential residents. Question number four addresses adequate and appropriate facilities. The site plan does not indicate a specific play area for children. They're proposing to put it on top of the water drainage area. Is that appropriate? When it snows, where will the cloud snow go? Somebody else already said that. For potentially 54 to 90 additional people living on the site, the trash area seems quite small. But there's no extra space for it. And maybe on the side, there's no charging stations for hybrid or electric vehicles. So I would say the answer question number four, a multi-family housing project means a designated area for children, adequate trash, snow removal area, and
a second. I just want to make sure that there's any responses you might have to anything that was stated before we go on.
So what she mentioned about the traffic study, that was done from 7 to 10 in the morning and then 4 to 6 at night, or 3 to 6 at night, so it's kind of that 4 to 6 that we were talking about.
Thank you.
And also the playground is not going to be on top of the graded structure, it's going to be designed in accordance with the graded structure.
What does that mean?
So wherever the drainage structure is going to have to go, the playground is going to be next to it.
Thank you. Go ahead. Appreciate your patience.
Brad Chesley, I live on Sylvan Way, I live at the very end of Sylvan Way, today. I agree with the board, there is 4 questions that basically you have to answer to whether approve or not approve this proposal. The first one I have issues with, the purpose of use similar to one of basically surrounding areas. I believe I saw a document that used my property as one of the references to a multifamily development, and that is incorrect. What we have is basically a accessory dwelling to the backside, which is our property, to my daughter's house in the front. That is not a multifamily development. It doesn't fit the criteria in the business district as a multifamily dwelling. Okay? That was my first issue with it. I think there's other areas that they use as reference, but it's not accurate because those are coming off of Route 12 or Route 32. They're not coming off onto Sylvan Way or a private road. So again, I don't think that their presentation is accurate to the property that this proposal is associated with. The second one, such approval would not reduce the value of the property. I've been on the planning board before, this is always a tough one. The developer can get a letter from anybody saying it won't. I can go out and get a letter from anybody saying it will. Basically, that's tough, and that's up to the board to decide. Personally, I think putting 108 people on that small property in an area that's already developed as a residential area would cause a value to drop in the property surrounding it. If they're a nuisance or a serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, I think we talked about that a little bit. The bus stop was a good scenario. Again, anytime you're adding 108 people to an existing neighborhood, there's going to be potential, for instance, to have like 46 cars. That's more cars than there are right now on that property, on that community, on Sylvan Way. The fourth, adequate and appropriate facilities to be provided by the plan. I think we've seen a couple of them right now. Stormwater. Stormwater is really an issue with a retention pond. So if you have a lot of water going in one area, it's going to be a retention pond. You're saying you're going to put a playground next to a retention pond, doesn't seem like a very safe area for that, in my opinion. Again, some of these issues regard to the planning board, but since they brought it up. On the proposal, I don't see any handicap spaces in their parking area. That takes up extra room in a standard parking space. So I don't know if they are thinking about that or if it's going to be an ADA compliant facility. That's another issue we should look at before approving. I believe that is all that I saw on this plan so far. So that's it for now.
Thank you very much. You can come back. Anything to address? No, hang on, hold on a second. I'm going to give them the opportunity to answer anything that was said before. We've done that every time.
So a comment as to the map showing different areas that are multi-family. They're color coded, so the yellow outline are 2-family dwellings, and then we know that's not multi-family, we're just trying to
about the yellow one that's to the left of the red, and that is one family.
With an ADU.
They have an ADU, which is,
Right, yeah, so it's
that's
considered,
not,
2 dwelling units.
it's not, added, it's not multi. It's like.
Well, it's 2 dwelling units, as he said.
Same family.
No, not necessarily.
In there.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that we have gotten a letter
What's
from
wrong with
the
two?
real estate appraiser. You guys don't have that in your packet. So that is not gonna have anything in that.
Thank you.
What was it compared to?
Go ahead.
Susan Perry, E-A-R-R-Y. Thank you. I just have a couple questions. First of all, on the completion of these units, are you guys all the way with the building already?
I don't know the answer.
They're an engineering firm.
Because between this one, the Marlowe, the we want to call it, the one's going up over as well. And then the
Plainview.
big one going up by the line. Are these all built, wait, list, all filled up? You know, with the need of housing, we keep hearing this need of housing. All these people that are homeless, they need housing. Where are they? And where are they living currently? Where are they working currently?
I didn't hear the answer.
I don't believe that's a zoning question.
Well,
I believe they're gonna fill it. I believe they're gonna fill. This is what I built for, what are my kids' table, so I would not take all this time and energy and money out of the right housing. I have a difference we can have to, and it was really exciting that housing was on detailed. We really have, he said, if you're desperate for housing in the state. I did.
Okay, we're gonna do one at a time. If you're in the audience and you want to address anything, you can come up like this young lady has right here to address the please. No comments from the gallery. It's not good decorum.
I understand the bill isn't a one thing, but I understand that it's being built because there's all these people that need housing all over. It's crazy. But yeah, we can't find help. There's no help in restaurants or where are all these people coming from? And where, you know, they must be living somewhere. But anyway, that's okay, so those aren't filled up yet, okay. Once they, all these places that are quickly going up and getting filled, with all these people, how's our staffing for police force involved? Are we good there? And how about the fire station? Do you have enough fire for all of them? I don't know, these are just questions. We'll do that.
So Sue, I'll let you know that I hear you. I appreciate your comments. Obviously, to this point, some of that really doesn't have to do with the germane nature of the zoning board, right? However, I will say that, you know, the other 4 big complexes that are supposed to be built, they're still stuck in politics in Swanzey. I don't know what status there are, if they're ever going to happen. So I'm just giving you that. And as far as the staffing, police and fire, I have no idea. That's a selectman question.
Will we be building more schools and staffing more teachers?
Well, we are not building more schools in Swansea.
All right, that was great, but
Thank you. Anyone else?
Board, could we just, I'm sorry, could we just move the presentation a little closer so we could, see where the.
Gonna move that up, you mean?
Yes.
Sure.
Because, my accent is pretty good, but I can't really see where the, is going to be.
Yeah, we're good.
We're
Yep.
good.
We have,
But this guy over here wants to say something.
Jimmy?
Go ahead.
I don't know how far you guys are online, but there's like 250, 300 more behind you that are doing something with it. And that's fine. But if you've been downtown Keene between 4 and 6 o'clock, it's a rat race. West Street, rat race, many accidents. I'm just making a point, is how many there are coming to this area. And like Sue said, Keene police is understaffed, ambulance, Swanzey. But the point is, the ones over there on Route 10 with the Marlows, the ones back there, which would be like 200. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, there might be 1 or 2. After 2 o'clock, I think there's only 1 officer available on Swanzey Police Force. So somebody gets left out because now we have over 300 or so people around. If this there or there, one worked out, we do it for the rest. And we want to hope that nobody's getting lost. Work with the ambulance, work over there, and they're all busy. And we need assistance. We need the last in line. What's going to happen? I had an issue for myself. December 11th, I couldn't read. I wouldn't want to be the last one to get arrested. It was very not good. So, I think that's very important. I don't know if anybody, all these people who are building these places, if you think about how much traffic is going to be built up, pulling out 32, not 12, yeah, that line's going to go over this other way. It's like a donut, and it's a pain to try to pull out of 32. That's my point I'm trying to make. I thought that the ambulance response time, police response time, and fire department, and I believe we should have had the police, somebody from the fire department, and ambulance here to answer a lot of these questions. And when you folks, and you do know what I'm talking about the ambulance, you look at the records of how many calls the ambulance get, it's just going to intensify at both. And fire and police, it's going to be out of our hands. I think nobody's taking that into consideration when we're building all of these ones. I just don't want to be the end of that stuff that's advanced. And I'm sure it will happen at some point. Downtown Queens, rearrange their Main Street, make it one way this way, one way north and south. That's not going to be good. Not going to be good. So, but anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've got one more question.
I think there's someone new, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then you can come back up.
I have a property right next to this development, one and a half acre of my property, which is forest, very short forest. I spoke to them and have to say, I heard from the gentleman here that I was thinking they have to go wrong because when up, I'm sure we went out, made it feel not on the whole street, you have to look at this, and on our street, to this one. Really look at two things. I can give you a copy of my trip, I'm gonna bring it back to you, because that's doing it. And here's the data. It's very dark, that's my told her, so this is a shocking drawing. Just let her shop to see what the people do. She didn't know how far it was, and that's when she thought like one story. And so I was like, it's going to be like a parents' hotel. What are you looking at? And so I was in the military, so I said to parents, I guess this is not good. My daughter asked me if you go down the street, you had seen that before, asked that. If you go to houses, there's this whole forest, he's like on the tear down. That's a sponge back there. That's an environmental issue. You shouldn't address the environment. They want to take care of those for the parking lot. Right now, there's a nice spot. And the people wanted to see that as a green area. All the stuff people talk about environment, like this is what they allow to happen. It just shouldn't be, everybody knows. I have a kid in school, I was I got a degree in industrial arts, and I could find a job, search for a job, too high. The vocation center, I was teaching during the same horticulture. I was a kid that was very good. What I know now is an adult. And he's coming in to see you and teaching you really are honest with him. So he said, I know I was a good jerk. And we've had many discussions. And he said, and they something very profound. That was that there is no such thing as a gray area where all these people want to paint everything. It doesn't exist. There is only white and only wrong. That's it. He said, what the gray area is, it's wrong for what we're doing. And that's what's happening here. I'll let you know how we can out here.
So, isn't that number in?
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. Because you have those that are packed.
We have that.
Yeah. He might want to copy.
Speak up a little, I think. This room absorbs your voice.
Is that the same?
Yeah. It appears to be, but there's different. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
We do have a map in our package of, we received a memo from residents. So we have this map, which is, I think, is what you're talking about.
We have that map.
That's not the map? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's not it?
Yeah, and she handed them out. Okay, go back, if you wouldn't mind, so everybody can hear that. Thank you.
The reason I need that map is because maps that I was given by Sarah, with this, it doesn't show the whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
we do have this in our packet.
Well,
And could I just refer to the gentleman so we can?
Sure.
Slide.
That's, that is, something else will take it off.
We did receive it, I just want to clarify.
I didn't know that, so I'm not going to the internet.
That's fine.
All right. So anyway, I walked out there, and Sarah had a different, I see that this building is 3 stories now. 3 stories, that's my property right there.
It's 2 stories and then there's a 3rd bedroom in the roof line.
Is there a window in that? So there are windows in the top story that are going to be facing into my property. It's wonderful. So if there goes my privacy, my property. Now, you think you can sell the house in the same amount? I can't doubt that. I lived in the same area, Edgewood Park for 13 years. We had 2 daughters. And the building we lived in contained the guy who was a former Swanzey police officer, Detroit police officer, and another town that I had. I was called. My wife called me one day when I was at work and said, "They're taking him out. Please put him out." The MLS was 3 minute leases because his sister had left him for a summer trip. Their boyfriend's man. He was a former police officer. I saw him in action because he hadn't come to our building. He's doing a 37-year stretch in federal prison. That was who was in that apartment. Then next door to us, one of the guys there and his girlfriend were selling drugs, and she had just graduated from King's State with a degree in drug rehabilitation. He went away for a 2.5-year stretch. That was what was in our apartment. So you're going to have possibly 108 people here. You're telling us you're going to be subsidized housing. At 11 Sylvan Way, the music was blaring. I went out to the guy and asked him to turn it down. He was very nice about it. I was smiling, so I knew not to go over anything. He turned it down. About a week or 2 later, he was taken out. He was fellas in the fire line. One day I come into my yard, and there's a young buck out there. Came over his hands and tools, and he put out the dog between 2 trees that are on my property. He was going to put a pit bull attached instead. I said, "Those are my trees. You can't do that." He walked away with his hands full of tools. His job was he was a prison guard. But he was going to attach a pit bull there. My 2 girls. Another tenant there brought a pit bull over one day to introduce it to my daughter. It was a young woman. And she was just utterly terrified. And everybody thinks this stuff doesn't happen. It does happen. We experienced it firsthand. Once you got somebody with 2.5 years of Bedford, somebody came in at night and thought it was other drug dealers. And the state police, they went to us. It was so whatever we respect is going to happen here. And he has 3 stories with windows facing my property. By the way, the cop who got arrested for that, he was doing videotapes out of the window of what he wanted to do to the other criminals. So you can see how I feel about this. That's the personal stuff. But as far as this goes, the proposed use is similar to one another. It isn't similar to anything. Unless you're going to go start calling a salamander an alligator. This is not similar, okay? A person rents out 2, there's 3 apartments along next. This is 18 of the stuff. So forget the similar. That's just my problem here is the language here is supposed to be almost invalid. When somebody on here says obnoxious, they just want just a little thing to talk a little bit. Enjoy. So let's go on. It's not going to do that. This summer, we have had to talk. My daughter and grandson, I have son all live across the street. And we have had to talk to the garbage disposal place because they're speeding down Sylvan Way. And they readily admitted we have a problem with stuff. They talked
talked to, they called the post office, and the applicant was doing the same thing. They readily admitted they had a problem with that. There was another one I can't recall, but the last one was really good, because it happened this week. They took a delivery of a piece of furniture, and they ran into our house, or into their house. He backed the truck up and almost hit the house. So you have vehicles coming in and out Sylvan Way, and you don't even know what they're doing. You don't drive. They're speeding, and now these folks are gonna have 45 vehicles in the place. And they're gonna walk up and say, what's wrong with me? Oh, man, you'll be okay. I don't know if that was the gentleman I saw taking his traffic study. You were doing survey. You're a very good gentleman, very polite. I think he's more. So, we have those right on the street, is that? And now, if you take the measurement from 32, you go back to the driveway to this 11 Sylvan Way, it's 287 feet. If you got 40 kids out there, like we're hearing, they're gonna take up some room. And if there's cars, we're going to keep it warm, that's gonna take up some room. So, you got 287 feet, you got to get to 40 feet, or 50 feet, maybe 60 feet, maybe more. And then you gotta get 5 feet between cars. So they're gonna come out of the left of Sylvan Way and go like this and turn right and drive down the other street and get in line to go out. The guy doing the traffic study, I often tell people my house wasn't built by a carpenter, it was built by a guy. The guy doing the traffic study was a guy with a pen and pencil in the cab, sitting on Mr. Willis' lawn. This gentleman here who said, I guess, I don't know how many times I heard I guess during this whole affair. I guess if you're trained to build buildings, you should be able to have the information out here. How does that work? I guess this, and maybe it'll work out. We'll think about doing that playground a little different. I think I heard you say that there was an open swale as part of the drainage. Are you kidding me? This is a mosquito haven. We all experience on mosquitoes back in the woods there when you walk back there. Well, he's going to have a mosquito pond on the property. Is anybody listening? Hearing any of this? Or am I just calling the home balls? These words on this paper are obnoxious, offensive, injurious. That's all very, very probably going to happen. And the problem with these words is they're not getting a concrete steel. But they should have the gravity of concrete steel. Because they mean something. And if it's offensive, it's going to be offensive. And it is going to be something we don't want to deal with. And we aren't stupid. We know this stuff is going to happen. But they just stroke and stroke and stroke. And they think we're going to lay down like lambs and be happy about it. Well, I'm not happy about it. And they aren't happy about it either. And it's time somebody started listening.
I believe I'd like your tone to be a little less confrontational to the board members here.
You people are in charge of the board. Okay? You're the board. And my idea is that you're supposed to be working with the town of Swanzey.
We have an ordinance that we have to follow. It is the town of Swanzey's ordinance. Right now, you're in a business district.
You keep saying that, but these words keep saying obnoxious, offensive, injurious. And it's like those words don't mean anything. But the word business district means like everything. I don't know. I guess I speak a different language. But like Ryan said to me, there's a right now. The gray area is just a strong forward to do it. That's looking at right here. And as soon as I said about the fire back there, my experiences, I've seen it. The first fire was a 12-year-old boy whose father gave him a quarter-gallon of gasoline to accelerate the fire on the grill. And he accelerated. The second fire was a dumpster fire they put hot coal in. The third one, I don't know whose fault it started. Because I smelled the smoke, I went up into the woods and was right behind some of the facilities. So they camped out, and they did, they pulled the park over. The flames were, and people were ready. When I got back, I ran down, rigged the fire company, they came, by the time I ran back up, they had quadrupled the size. So my concerns about fires back, and it says 30-foot truck over there. 30-foot truck doesn't go in the parking, but don't. We're gonna be moving. There's gonna be other vehicles, in people all around there, all those cars. What do you think they're gonna be? You think they're gonna park right now? You're gonna have 35, 36 adults on the traffic car. And then people sort of like, they have to go somewhere, and they're like, no, anywhere. You can't get out. So I mean, the words here, when you say obnoxious and injurious, these words you should feel them out. And this is just where several people that make fun. That's what it's about. It's got to be out making money. I don't lose money, close over that street. Where I grew up, they have a parent this. They go with blockbuster. I asked, I said, that's your couple people, I said, what's that? Well, that's when you bring in a project like this, people get disgusted and leave. And you have to sell it for a rate. So they bust the block. And some people like that, because then they can do what they call churning, which is another. They take and turn the property over. Every time they turn it over, it's like that. And a lot of people are talking about the crews. I saw churning go on at the Wolf Road. I went up and talked to the town people, what they have all this run right out of the chair. I said, how many times has that done with this roll? They couldn't give me that information fast enough. They were turning the property by mistreating the tenants. They were about people in there. I know, because I was a tenant. My daughter's my brother's hospital. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. But this project is not ready for still building plan. This is right now, so I feel like a bigger piece of property, you bring the streets and ranches down, because many people move to their playgrounds on the street, it's going to be so fun. All those kids in the street, right now there's 2 on the rest scooters just saw yesterday. I don't know, I can get around 2, but I can't get around 35 of them. And what are they going to be saying to me when I say, would you really do? I don't think they're going to respond to me very politely. And I'm easy to get along with, because I taught school 6th, 7th, 8th grade for 20 years. I like this. You can ask me about it. But the city was coming, and everybody understands. And it does have to do with the words of the day. Those are what will be vital.
Thank you.
Scott Christo, 27 Sylvan Way. Scott Christo. I have a question for you. You have 45 parking spaces.
Mr. Chairman, I'm so sorry.
Just wait.
The gentleman here had no chance to respond to anything that was just stated.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Didn't
Just
know if
hold
there was
off for
anything
1
that you guys
second.
had to respond to be fair to
The previous.
both sides. I apologize for
Thank
stopping
you, thank you, Adam.
Just the couple of quick comments I have is saying that it's not similar to any development in the area. What you also have to look at there is how similar it is to developments that are allowed by right in the business district. A hotel, for instance, being allowed by right, and a nursing home, for instance, being allowed by right in the zoning district, where these buildings could be built with the identical footprints they are now, and just not be multi-family residential units. So we're conforming more to the area by having them be residential units than be something of a pure business use, like a hotel or something like that. And then also, he gave you that map, the lot overview map. We do have a lot overview map shown on the plan here. It's required that these multifamily units be 50 feet from any existing residential structures that are currently in the district. And We are showing the surrounding buildings of that property, showing that to meet that 50-foot setback requirement.
I have a question about that. Comment?
You'll need to identify yourself, please.
I'm Kristen Chesley. You're saying that I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Kristen Chesley. What is it? Kristen, okay. O-J-R-I-S-T-I-N. Oh, Chesley. You say you have a 50-foot from other existing properties. Say Mark, who is next door, wanted to put an accessory dwelling on his property. No longer the 50, so
No.
if he is using his property then? Yeah.
This is
No.
just based on the existing structures that are currently there.
Well, as long as he met the setback
Well, what's the
from the,
50 foot?
50 feet from the proposed building to the
Any
existing structure.
existing structures, right, or what if Mark wanted to put an accessory dwelling?
he would, as long as he doesn't put it within the setback, side setback.
Okay, so then the 50 foot wouldn't come into.
No, oh no, he's just claiming, he's just pointing out, I believe, how far away he is, that these are being proposed
Okay, so
today.
that's not intended, I was wondering where I got that,
Uh,
not some kind of regulation.
Yeah, the buildings that, if you're proposing these multi-family, they have to be 50 feet from the dwellings that are currently there surrounding.
Okay.
That's a requirement for the site plan regulations, so
Not
the site
zoning.
plan will review that. That's why that matters. But you're asking post, say they
Right, I
didn't, say
was
that
wondering if
it
that
wasn't
makes
approved.
anything posed.
No, it wouldn't.
No, okay, thank you.
We have 45 spaces for living, right? Where is your company visiting that park?
That is,
The spaces are
No,
just,
you have 3 spaces per park, 2.5. That's designated for the apartment. Say, Joe Schmo at 17 wants to have a birthday party for his daughter. He invites 10 of her friends. That's 8 to 10 cars. Where are those cars gonna be? They're gonna be on the side of Sylvan Way, which is already too small for 2 vehicles to drive there. So, any other questions? I don't see anything for trash facilities on the site plan.
we're showing dumpster facilities.
How many of those are there?
There's 2 dumpster vehicles there.
2 dumpsters for 100 people per week?
It is possible to get a dumpster more often.
Is that the plan? I mean, 2 dumpsters? Give me a break. There's gonna be trash all over the ground, it's gonna be like skunks, bears, rats, lice infestation. Where are they gonna go? Everybody else's houses. How is that fair? Don't talk like that, but if you're in a public meeting, there's no reason to swear. But I think
Just
you
address the-
It's not a swear.
you can address the board here,
Bullshit
please.
isn't a swear? Oh, we got, it's professional.
Could we have this gentleman's name, please? I like your name.
Yeah, I mean.
Just address the, if you can continue your comments, address the
In my
board.
personal opinion, I've lived in this neighborhood for 55 years. There's never been any problem with anybody. Now you want to come in, you want to destroy an entire community. Disrupt the whole landscape of the place. There's guaranteed not enough water, not enough sewage flow. And the traffic. I mean, you can't drive a pickup truck and a delivery truck down this road against each other. Somebody has to pull over. So now, like I said, with somebody having a birthday party. Now, because somebody has a birthday party, which is fine, I'm not against it. How am I gonna get in and out of my road? You know, because people will park on both sides of the road. So now you've got a traffic jam. Anybody needs an ambulance, fire. As far as water for fires, we have one hydrant at the end of the road, at the end of the line. How much pressure is in that? I understand they have sprinkler systems. But that's gonna draw more water away from the existing water going to that hydrant. So now we have an 18-unit building on fire. People trying to get out of there, fire department not being able to come in. I mean, I totally think this is not the place for this. They could go buy 10 acres somewhere and develop their own property. So, as a resident of that neighborhood, I am 100% against it. And any of my neighbors I've talked to or surrounding neighborhoods do not feel this is appropriate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One little follow-up.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that the board received the letter, the packet that we, as a community, Sylvan Way, put together with all our signatures. And one of the comments, since the applicant brought this up, saying, let's look and see what the regulation allows. This is not they did it over there, so I can do it over here. Every proposal passes or fails on its own merit. That's all we're looking at is this proposal, not the proposal on 32, proposal on 12, any other proposal. This proposal, does this fit the environment in which it's being proposed?
So there was a question asked about an hour ago that I don't think you had a chance to address. And that was handicap parking spaces. I'm assuming you have them because it's state law, so I'm assuming you covered that, yes?
We don't have any proposed here now.
Isn't ADA compliance for multi-units?
No, it's not actually.
It's not.
You do not, no. You don't have to put ADA in a, if you were a business of some sort, you're required to put handicap parking. If it's residential, as I understand it, there is no requirement to put specific handicap parking spaces in your.
Okay, so I know that we're splitting minutia, so let me just run that to ground with you for a second, and you know this way better than anybody here, probably. So if we're talking that this is a business, then we're claiming that it's a business district, and that's what we're going as the premise for the allowance of this. Is this not a business?
It's not a business that allows the public in. If you were a convenience store, if you were a
Okay, so we're splitting hairs.
I don't think so. I think it's, I mean, because, you know, you may have to, I mean, everybody could be handicapped in the place. I mean, you run into problems when you're trying to give that handicap spot. But for residential use, for purely residential use, you don't need to designate a handicap parking spot.
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Why? You said anybody could be handicapped. You think some people make it?
No, I'm just saying it's just not required. I mean, you could, every one of those spaces could conceivably be handicapped. They could have 18 handicapped people living in this.
So do you understand the ramifications of a handicapped person?
The what of the handicap?
The needs of a handicapped person.
Sure, I think. Well, I know how, I've developed 750 units of multifamily housing in the 2 counties. We've never been required to put a handicap space in a multifamily environment.
And I asked for perspective, sir, with all due respect.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be a percentage of people that you can determine will need handicap access. As a builder, you would know that. What is the percentage that you've run into?
I don't calculate percentages, but I can tell you in our senior housing developments, roughly 50% of the people could get a handicap placard.
Okay, so you
don't.
You know it's not that many. It's probably not going to be that many because it's going to be a family.
Well, you asked me, so I guess you know better.
So would this be 15%?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It all depends on who applies. You never know who's going to apply.
Well, and we just say that as...
I would say most people, because this is a townhome development, you're not going to find too many physically handicapped people who are going to want to go into this kind of an environment because it's multi-story.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but still there has to be, there'll have to be 10% spaces that have to be there, 5%.
Not in a residential use. Not in a residential use, right.
Okay.
If it was a business, he would be required to put a certain percentage, depending on your square footage of your business, I believe. But in a purely residential use with no commercial uses on site, you don't have to put noted marked handicap spaces.
Understood.
You're up.
Sorry, just to be clear, there's another part of the question. I'm just doing my math here. So if we're 2.5 spaces per building, and the spaces are allocated, I think there must be visitor spaces somewhere. Or you decide somebody's gonna have 2 and somebody's gonna have 3. I'm just asking that question.
The spaces shown here are just based on the zoning requirements. So
So
this
apartment
development,
one isn't like I have space one and two, spaces aren't assigned.
that
Depends on the owner.
that may be something.
In our project, we allow, each unit to have 2 cars, so that would allow an extra half.
So then there are visitors from
There
somewhere,
would be extras.
and I just, want that loud and all that,
Oh,
or that's loud.
in Ridge, we allow up to a certain degree, I want to say it's like 20 pounds, they have to be extra money to bring it back because there's extra cleaning and, allergy cleaning and stuff that they move out.
And in terms of playground, the wall, the dog, the cat, whatever it is, will fit their lines, so, or will there be, I understand.
This site is, it is a smaller site, so I think they would have to rely on parks primarily in the community, like walking dogs.
Please, please.
But I do plan to provide a playground, like, I don't know if you saw, seeing a picture here, but, this is the playground that we provided in our project in Range.
Where on the map, can you show where that will be?
For planning board, yes.
Not, well, just point it out. Just point out where it would be.
There's possibly space yeah, because we have done it in stormwater elevation, yes, we don't know how big these structures are gonna be or where they're gonna be, but there's possibly gonna be space down here, possibly around the back here.
So everybody neighbor is gonna have to smell everybody waste because it's renters and they don't care because it's not their property. So if we 10 pounds of dog shit every 50 feet, then all these people that bought the property have to smell it. Or the nice grass you're gonna bring in.
The residents.
No, you guys have no answer for any question we're asking.
The residents should be responsible for their dogs on waste that is not.
Have you ever walked through Keene? People do not care where the dogs go as long as it's not on their property. And when it's a rental property, people do not care because it's not their issue.
So let me ask another question here.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Will you be planning on having on-site or off-site management
For waste.
for the property?
Property management.
We have a property management company, in-house already, and we manage a lot of the facilities that are living on the property, but we source out the landscaping, tell local landscapers, and property management, go to the office if necessary, and facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I just have a couple questions about this. I know we're allowed so much more, is that pipe actually going to be able to handle all the residents? Yes, is that right?
It is an age pipe.
And then the island they were putting in the parking lot, that's really only allowed 85 trucks to hold in back. That's about like 50 feet for a truck to do a full circle. Those parking spots are trash, the playground, the tennis hall is not going to allow that. That's only going to be back right now.
Yeah, so again, that's something we're gonna have to look at for the site plan review, or if their landscape is required.
So it's just like, I mean, it's inadequate space for what's needed to be correct. And then, also with the water pressure, when you add a flow room, how's that going to make the, building water, if you have that list, same for that flow room,
The lower for the,
pretty water pressure.
yeah,
So it may use as well.
yeah,
It could be,
For the people, pets, et cetera, could get through that onto my property. Really rather they didn't.
Right, yeah.
Anyone else?
Because they're gonna put the playground on top of the, waste and, right next to the dumpsters.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Lake. I live at 38 Sylvan Way. Lennig.
Thank you.
So this property is proposed, the use of this property is proposed is not similar to anything that's nearby. And not only is that not true in the literal sense, but in the legal sense, there's a meeting scheduled only a few minutes from now to consider, whether that business district should be expanded or contracted. Approving this would potentially create a boondoggle. Approving this property would be obnoxious because it's putting a whole bunch of people in a neighborhood that's not very big. It would put a whole bunch of traffic on the street that does not have traffic, that has not been honestly examined. They examined Route 32, not Sylvan Way. There would be a nuisance presented by putting all those cars, as people have said, when people visit, especially in the area of Bluebell, there will be people, someone will be visiting someone every weekend. There's going to be cars running all down the street. You can barely get two regular sized cars down there right now. If it's trucks, you got to pull to the side. I don't understand how it would be possible to normally navigate that street if there's people regularly parking on the side. Children who are waiting for the bus will be at risk. As for adequate and appropriate facilities, I suppose it's hard to say how much tax revenue such a development would bring and whether it would offset the inevitable need for an increase in police and fire services, but I have my doubts.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Just one last comment. The applicant brought this up in Brad Chesley.
Yep.
Brad
Chesley.
When we asked the applicant some of these questions, they said, well, how do we review the planning board? How do we review the planning board? That's correct. It will be reviewed at the planning board to see if it's sufficient. But we have question number 4, which goes to, is it currently adequate to be passed? So just keep that in mind. A lot of these questions we haven't been answered.
I'm John Streeter. I have a window lighting company, Streeter,
Thank you.
I have a window lighting company, and I've done projects like these in Lebanon, Brattleboro, Windsor, all this summer. I got them all done. I saw the reaction of the neighbors. I wouldn't want one of these next to my house. And I feel for all these people who have it next to their house. I had one guy come across the street and tell me in Lebanon, I asked them not to build that there, and now they're looking right at me. Because I'm Eder Road next to the hospital in Dartmouth. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. They renovated houses in Brattleboro. I had 7 houses to do. They renovated all these old, decrepit houses in Brattleboro, and they refurbished them all and did kind of what we're trying to do here, but it really spruced up the neighborhood. Anyway, I'm going to go eat.
That's all for you.
Yes,
Anyone else care to provide some testimony, some comments?
I have another question, Scott. We've asked a lot of questions. We've asked for information. They have not been able to provide that for us. Isn't that a semi-inadequate application? How can you guys go or determine without having all the information and all the facts on this stuff to go forward. Every time we have one, we're not sure, we don't know. This is what they do for a living. If I went to my job and said, oh, well, I think we do this, I get fired. So how can you guys make a judgment without the proper information given to you of the people of your town asking questions, and them not providing any information about any of them? Doesn't that play a part in how you guys make your decision, is the information you're given?
We have a packet of information here, we've heard testimony, we've heard a lot. I'm not saying we're gonna answer this or not, but the board here will take up the questions that we have a responsibility for taking up.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Come on up. Sure. Willette. He was up earlier.
I know, what's the name? Oh, yes, it's Will, okay. You know, I'm all right. Sylvan Way,
I presume, yeah, I presume you do.
you yourself warned the board in 2009 that if I came up with enough property for my neighbors, you couldn't stop me from building whatever I wanted on that property.
If you say so.
You were on board, you're the one that said that, yeah. I had less than an acre, and you said if I had an acre or plus, I could put whatever I wanted to on the field. And I jumped through hoops for it. This is an acre and a half. Now, 2 years from now, is that white house that's on that premises gonna get demolished and then stick another 9 apartments in there? Because once they get what they want, is that all they want? You have to ask yourself that. I was asked that myself. So, careful what's there.
Thank you. Anyone else? We will consider closing the public hearing, so at that point in time, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is John Radigan. John Radigan. I'm senior RAT,
Thank you.
senior partner of Jonathan Tucker and Chandel, probably the largest municipal law firm in the state of New Hampshire. I represent over a dozen municipalities, which is what we need. I represent.
And to your point,
And county board members. Just to let you know, Chesterfield, Hinsdale, Peterborough, Mason, Milford, all usually local communities are all my clients. So I think the board has heard a lot of information about site planning. And I think those are entirely lots of very interesting issues to raise before them. But they're not sure the chair has already mentioned to the board review of this application. When I got involved in this project, I read the recent Supreme Court decision that the Aboriginal Development Court versus Swanzey case. And I think we clearly have reported all professional information facts that was provided by engineers, that it was provided by real estate professionals. It demonstrates that the applicant was satisfied with the core requirements of the permit application. Yeah, I understand also that, with respect to housing, related projects, similar projects in the district, we've got, Page Homestead project, and also the 4305, another 4.6 project, which is a 38-unit project and a 32-unit project, which are approved by this board to have business. So there clearly are comparable projects in this questions, so I didn't just like hear from them, we have the answer.
Yeah?
I don't know if you would answer this, or perhaps you could. Just this evening, so not in our packet that we received Monday, but just this evening, we got a letter from the Forma Foundation, which is a professional opinion certified appraiser regarding the proposed development to be located at the property. And I don't know if you've seen this.
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. So on the first page towards the bottom, it says that the proposed development will not place any undue strain on local government services, and local roadways will not have a noticeable negative impact by the limited traffic that the development may produce. And then this sentence sort of concerns me. It says, the surrounding property uses will benefit from the subject development, and the subject will fit in well with the existing improvements with other nearby parcels. I don't see in here any examples of benefit. So when I read it about the market demand and supply and design and aesthetics. I mean, I've been through this, but there's just a suggestion that the surrounding property uses will benefit from the subject development, but there's no express benefit listed. I'm just curious.
I can't tell you what the opinion is with respect to that.
Yes.
But I will say that, as has been expressed, the governor, the employees of this state.
Right.
I represent so many police and fire.
Sure.
We can't, and school departments, we can't attract and retain new employees to support those organizations.
Well,
and the main reason for that is there's no available housing available.
So, I'm not disagreeing with you.
No. But the benefit that seems practical to me, because I've been involved in development for 4 years, is that in this neighborhood, where we have people who own houses, the idea of introducing rental houses, they could say, well, it's not my house, it's my kid, kind of live down the street in the apartment. There's all kinds of, benefits for something like that to be available. So and that's my professional experience.
Okay.
How the benefit is for that.
So I'll say to you, or because you compensated this person for this document. So I would say that if they're going to express a benefit, they should demonstrate. I'm just saying. So thank you.
I agree with you that it's not precisely clear about what issues.
Correct.
But as to the opinion, that when I release the value, there's no question that is not.
I don't find that material correct.
And secondly, none of the professional information that presented to you on all these issues has been contradicted by any professional information in this area.
Well, I'm certainly saying it's incomplete. So, okay, thank you.
Was it former part of Jamison's? Is that what Jameson?
Not yet, that was Forma.
Okay, hold on.
So it's written on behalf of this application. So yeah, just to rebuttal the lawyer's comment.
Wouldn't you come up, if you wouldn't mind coming up here, because we may have people that are listening
I
online.
asked the governor at our 6 o'clock meeting to look at the plan, so he can talk about those the governor wants, affordable housing and so on. I can tell you in Chesterfield, I was in chairman of the planning board, the property that went in, that development that went in, I was against that at the time. They said affordable workplace housing. These buildings are now being sold for almost $500,000 for a 2-bedroom unit. If he thinks it's going to be affordable, if he thinks it's going to be housing
building for people to come in. It's gonna be another $300,000-400,000 apartment that, is gonna stay vacant for a very long time because we have so many developments in Swanzey that are going forward. They're not quite in their development stage, but they're gonna be going forward. And again, I just think that the town should rein back a little bit of the development on 32 until some of these projects get going or even get finished. See how it's gonna impact town, the services, the traffic. I mean, there's just so many things going on right now that I think Swansea is maybe getting into trouble with if they allow all these projects to go in all at once. Like I said.
Jamison Vandyke.
Yep.
I have, my brother Jared is, my partner, so we grew up in Ridge, and my father was a developer, and we grew up building these projects, alongside him, and we've watched many people, and I'm not from Swanzey, I grew up in Ridge, I lived there for 42 years, and, I've been through a lot of projects down there that we've developed in town. We've had a lot of pushback from people there in town. And everything that you guys said tonight, you know, I'm not looking at it as something to laugh at or to have any disregard for. I just want you to know that I heard you. And you guys have your side and your opinion. You lived there for a long time. Tight neighborhood, obviously, from this group that's here, which I think is awesome. It's hard to find that these days. We simply looked at this project when it was presented to us as really good zoning. It's getting tougher and tougher to build housing these days with the cost of money, you know, with the mortgage rates and financing and the inflation. Inflation is driving, like, you know, housing grow 90% of the inflationary, you know, problems that we're dealing with today. And that needs to get in check in order for, you know, the cost of food and everything else to get in check. But I just want to share a quick experience. So we built this project in Range, about a year and a half old. That's the latest we built. There's other ones we have that have been hugely successful. We're not, in Range, a couple of the projects, we did have to have a couple workforce housing units as a requirement. And that's turned out very well. We've had zero incidents with police coming to any of the projects down there. The tenants have been extremely respectful. This project, my office is in the bottom of this project, so I'm in and out of it every day. And we don't have any trash around. You know, if there is a piece, I watch people walk their dogs literally around the building. They'll do circles around the road. They'll pick up the trash, they throw it away. So the cost of those units in Range, we went out for $1,800 and $1,900 a month right now. Yeah, there are some single moms there with a kid or two, but there's also young couples. We have 3 coaches there from Franklin Pierce who had to travel an hour and a half each way just to get to Franklin Pierce to coach each day. And they were ready to quit. And when this came in, the athletic director called me immediately and we were able to place 3 of these units. There's grad students that didn't have housing at Franklin Pierce that provided housing for them. We don't have any issues with parties or anything like that. We have a very strict property management team, and we set a lot of rules and guidelines that we learned from my mother, from her who had been in the business for 40 years. We try to really vet out the tenants because we don't want to be dealing with issues. We don't want to be getting phone calls from you guys complaining about issues. We really try to do our due diligence on that end. And our projects have been very successful, and the people that had pushed back a lot were, you know, the landscape package that I put in Range was $157,000. That playground cost me $35,000 to build. Those are extras that we put in just to really have a nice product. We want to leave a legacy when we build these projects. I'm not coming in to just build like as cheap as possible, affordable, like, you know, a lot of those taglines. And I hear they're not in my backyard, comments for sure, because it is a tight neighborhood, and any change is difficult. And I hear it my own now, and I do build in my backyard. I literally build in my backyard. But this housing has really provided for a lot of good families and new people in our community. That's what I hope for this community. We are 1.8 miles from Twin City College. I could see it, you know, building a relationship with maybe the athletic director there, and some of the coaches, and some of the professionals that work in that college or in this community that are looking for housing. Because we get our list, I don't have a list yet for this because we're still in such an early stage, but our project with Range took 30 days to fill out. You know, literally it was full. 30 days as soon as we put it out. So, thank you for
How long are the rent hikes?
we did 1 year leases in Range, which would be the same idea as these as well.
So I can hear it directly.
Oh, I thought you were saying like
The lease.
The lease is 1 year. We're trying to hold as long as possible. We have a 5-year mortgage, you know, commercial. So our rate is locked for 5. But after 5, the rates are higher. We'll have to go a little bit with just to cover our mortgage payment.
Okay, so we don't do it on a yearly basis.
Yeah, we're not trying to get out or anything like that.
I think if you're joining the workforce,
What was that?
I think if you're joining the workforce,
Well, some of them are already, in Range, my example, they're already in the workforce, but they were ready to leave. Like Cheshire County in the last decade, believe it or not, I know it seems crazy because I heard your comment about downtown Keene and West Street. And I agree with West Street, the car wash going in, it is very busy. But the demographics in Cheshire County, we're actually declining in population through that now. We're actually declining. And like what John was trying to say earlier was, you know, people are leaving Massachusetts. I do a lot of work in Massachusetts too. A lot of the young professionals and stuff are leaving the colleges and they're moving elsewhere. And the population that we're getting in are a lot of times like unschooled or untrained individuals. So the demographics are actually changing. So even if we're at a break-even on population, a lot of our skilled trained workers are leaving in the city or down south.
Your property in Ridge, is that on a small dead-end road?
Nobody's not saying. It's on a state highway.
And a major road is probably appropriate. Or not a major road, or a small dead-end road. It's not appropriate, folks. Don't let the fact that you're zoning preclude you from doing the right thing. This isn't appropriate here. It might be needed. Jamison might be, you know, with all due respect, it might be right that it's needed. But it's not there.
And one thing I would say, you know, if you guys decide to continue this, you know, we can do a more in-depth traffic study. Absolutely, if that's a major concern, which is, I appears to be a major concern. We could look at the bus pulling into the property to pick up the children on the property or have a turn in for them, so that you're not parked out on the street, not kids lying on the street. We have a lot of room on the property for these things to run out. We would look at maybe a shelter for them to sit on it, like they used to do.
Well, it wouldn't be us, it would be you. It wouldn't be us saying, it wouldn't be us saying you do this or we want, you know, want you to look at that. It's just gonna be up to you. If you wanna, you know, extend this meeting and try to address some of these concerns, that's up to you.
I would like to do that. I would like to address, I hear the concerns. I would like these guys to dive in deeper and to really look at what you guys as all the neighbors and some of your concerns as well. So we can address those and what last year.
So we heard traffic.
just need your name.
I'm sorry. There's been a lot of time, 21 Sylvan Way, and there's been a lot of talk about all these other things. What we're here tonight for is to answer the 4 questions on whether or not they should be allowed an exception to the rules to build this. And I think we have sufficiently answered each of your 4 questions. No, absolutely no. There is nothing like this built on a dead-end road. This is definitely going to cause a nuisance, and there are safety and other issues. I think this should be denied. Thank you.
Point of order. Am I understanding correctly, the applicant has asked for continuation? I'm summarizing what I just heard, but could I be more specific? Or
I think the 25 people here have invested 3 hours, so.
yeah. But that's just something we have to take into consideration.
Right,
The
as a board.
applicant has just stated that they would like a continuation.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me.
Sir?
I'm just gonna,
It's just something I think we'd have to address to be able to move on.
At some point, yeah, I just want to make sure we get through this hearing here.
Yep.
Yep. Good.
yeah, I guess I would have you guys vote tonight and, I would address all of that and get there.
Okay, so.
Richard Elgin, I don't think, there seems to be a lot of unanswered questions.
Richard, he said he would like to.
Yeah, if you'll just wait a second, he
Clarification, sorry.
He said he would like to continue.
we've got a member that's not seated, I don't know if Brian will. Presume he went to the,
Not this one. Correct.
We'll take up things at the planning board.
no, we're just gonna wait a second, we're waiting for a member to come back. I presume he's using the restroom, I don't think he left. Just waiting for Brian. Brian is not here. And I don't think he left the building.
No,
Okay.
car just speeding down the driveway.
Kudos to your air conditioning.
Yeah, huh?
It works well.
That's like,
What happens? People, so much time is all taken up.
Think of it, Brian.
Yeah, that's what he says. He wants to do it. We'll take it up to the planning board. He wants us to go in 4 questions.
I think that's like, then I think the extension, let's do it.
That's not what I did.
He didn't know if he left.
We've been
He
waiting.
didn't know if he left.
Could you give us your name? Oh, okay. Sorry, thank you.
Not that anyone needs to be reminded of this, but I will remind you. We have over 500 units coming in within a mile and a half radius already where they are. And usually you have 18 more workforce housing right in that area. I strongly disagree. It's a statement, it's just, it's nuts. 500 units, 300 of them we know is very good.
I know a lot of those units will never happen, not at the ground floor of a lot of those. They don't pencil out.
Just saying.
Anyone else? This is a public hearing. Once we close the public hearing, you will not have a chance to add any more information, so I'm not saying we are gonna close it, but we're.
The fire station is going in,
Question?
We don't decide that.
Nobody knows.
No.
It's over to you, Julie.
Anyone else? And before we close the public hearing, I want to make sure with the applicant that we understand. We thought we heard you ask for an extension until next month to address some of these concerns, but then I think I heard it not to, that you weren't asking for extra time.
Do you guys feel as though you need like a professional traffic study of Sylvan Way? Or do you rely on the fact that he's out there? You know, and the summer is peak traffic. If we didn't take into consideration a school bus, which, yeah, you had a vehicle, or two vehicles, each way every day, but I guess I'm asking for.
We really can't answer that question. You have to decide whether you want to move forward with the information that's been presented tonight, or whether you'd like to an extension to gather more information and or address them.
Everyone's here tonight, and we're like, I think here, both sides, quite a while, so can I be out there and go on tonight?
We've never done that before, though. Yeah, but we don't want to drive an extension. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm hearing we're going to move forward. Your decision, okay, move forward. Okay. Is there anyone else has anything else to say before we close the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing.
It is not closed.
Close the public hearing, that's right. Any questions or comments or anything else before we move along?
Just a general comment.
Sure.
I think it speaks to the housing needs of the state and so forth. And, you know, we've seen a lot of applications in the last couple of years as it relates to this. And I think just as a statement, I think Swanzey's toeing the line, you know, as a city, as a town in New Hampshire. And so, you know, I don't think there's, even what's been presented here by the applicant, this tells a story. You know, there's a lot of multifamily units going in there, and just something I wanted to comment on the position.
Jay.
I'd just like to remind all of my colleagues what we got from a lawyer relating to the terms injurious, obnoxious, and offensive. And this is, of course, important because we don't want to misinterpret those words. And so the opinion that we got was that the terms injurious, obnoxious, or offensive refer to whether a proposed use might be demonstrated to be a potential nuisance to the surrounding neighborhood due to traffic, unsanitary conditions, excessive noise, vibration, vapors, toxic emissions, and odors. Evidence that a proposed special exception use may exhibit one or more of these conditions could justify a ZBA to conclude the proposed use does not merit the grant of a special exception because the use would be injurious, obnoxious, or offensive. But we need to confine ourselves to these types of things and not whether it's something we don't like or not.
That's true.
That's what I'm reminding us all about.
Okay. Others? Comments? Questions? Before we go to the...
I missed everybody's testimony. Can we start back at the beginning?
You missed something, right? No, Beverly's got it all down. So.
Oh, Beverly's got it all?
Every word. All right. Comfortable moving on?
May I just ask, Mr. Chairman, I am not seated to vote, but I may comment on these things?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Question number one. The proposed use is similar to one or more uses already authorized in the district and is an appropriate location for such a use. The proposed use is residential. It's not multifamily, it's not single family. The proposed use, as I see it, is a residential use. So and certainly I would be willing to discuss that with anyone here if they have another thought, but do we agree that the proposed use is similar to one or more uses already authorized in the district and is in an appropriate location for such a use? I'm gonna start with Adam.
And just, Mr. Chairman, just
Yeah,
quickly,
sure.
I just want to be clear on what you just said.
Sure.
So in terms of it being a residential use, but also being a multifamily.
Right, but it's residential. It's residential in nature is the use, and whether it's allowed in this district is what they're asking.
Well, it's only allowed
used
for
as
special
actually commercial
exception.
because it's multifamily, but they're used utilized as, places for people to live.
Residential use. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to a corporation.
Right, or, yeah, so a residential store or a retail, business. So, Adam, do you agree or disagree that the use is similar to one or more uses already authorized in this district and is an appropriate location for such a use?
Well, I believe that this board's seen cases similar in terms of the use, and actually within this area and so forth, knowing full well that each one of these cases is on its own on merit.
That's right.
This application is completely only on this basis of its use. But as a use, multifamily and residential is an authorized use within the district under special exception. And the style of the use, so to speak, with buildings and so forth, could be comparative of a hotel or something of that nature, or a nursing home, which are also authorized uses within the district.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, I do think there is similar uses within the district, and the proposed use is similar. But as an appropriate location, I'd say absolutely not. I think the appropriate location of this, this type of use and this much traffic would require a much more robust road and something that had access, via sidewalk or some level of access that was more than what Sylvan Lane can offer. So from that perspective, I'd say no. So overall, no.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, I agree with Adam. I think that the wording's not lost on me. Authorized in the district, it's this district, it's not business district and any other part of town. So is it authorized in the district? Yes, but the special exception it is. Is it an appropriate location? It is not. I think that there's been a lot of testimony that referenced the other properties, even by the presenter, that are in the area that potentially will be built if they ever get out of wherever they're stuck. But those are not on a dead-end road with a narrow road, and those are all highways.
Okay.
So this location, I say, is not appropriate.
Okay. Thank you. Lisa?
I believe it is the appropriate use, but it's a very inappropriate location. No.
Ann?
Not inappropriate.
Ann?
I agree that it is a use that's similar, but it is the location, and in particular, the width of the road, is not appropriate for the size of this. There's too many possibilities of conflict, not just between neighbors, but in lots of right of way, and I don't think it's appropriate. I don't know.
Okay. I'm concurring with most of the board that it is similar to one or more uses already authorized in a business district, which is what this is. And I think it's a tough question for me about whether it's an appropriate location for such a use, but I'm going to concur here with the rest of the board that I just don't, I think it is, the proposed use residential is similar, but it's an interesting site and it's difficult, so I'm gonna go along with the board to say that it's not an appropriate location. 2, do we agree that such approval?
Do you mind if I say something?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I agree with the board. I just want to point out that the use is approved by special exception, and that allows us to decide whether the location is appropriate. And that's why I think that I would have to vote no, because this is a narrow dead-end road, and I think that it adds too much density in this particular location, even though the density is allowed by the zoning rules. I think this particular location is not appropriate.
Thank you. Do we agree that approval would not, do we agree that such an approval would not reduce the value of any property within the district nor otherwise be injurious, obnoxious, or offensive to the neighborhood? Brian?
Well, so this one's a pretty easy one for me. We have testimony from real estate agents that the property values wouldn't be affected or reduced or diminished.
Right, we have nothing about that.
But, you know, that's, I could find 10 real estate agents to say it could. So, I mean, that's a fungible testimony. So, right. Obnoxious, injurious, and based on the guidance that we have from our lawyers and the definition, I say that this absolutely will be offensive to the neighborhood and certainly could be obnoxious based on the amount of traffic and people. I mean, you're more than doubling the size of the neighborhood on one property. So that's my answer is no.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
I'm also a no. I agree it would be injurious, obnoxious, and offensive to the neighborhood. I have a lot of testimony for that tonight.
Okay, thank you. Ann?
I'm also a no for those reasons.
Adam?
This one's difficult for me because, I mean, we have been given the definition of what injurious, obnoxious, and offensive means as it relates to the courts. And this is something that does give some level of latitude for those that are on the board to make a decision and to look at various, you know, testimonies to be able to decide what is injurious and obnoxious and offensive. But as the courts define it, and at least the guidance that we've been given from the Supreme Court in New Hampshire, injurious, obnoxious, and offensive typically result in the use of the property, right? Not what the property is going to occur. So in a residential setting, a residential use is very difficult to obtain a injurious or obnoxious or offensive capacity to its use. So from that perspective, I have to say yes, that this would, and as it relates to the not reducing value of any property, as Brian has stated out there, it's kind of a wash either direction. I've heard testimony that it won't, but we also heard testimony that people believe that it would. So it's a wash for me from that perspective. But overall, I think the answer is yes for me on this specific question.
Right. We have no testimony that says, well, we don't have any evidence, I'm sorry, that says that the approval would reduce any value of the property within the district site. And I think that use, that residential use, is not by its very nature itself injurious, obnoxious, or offensive. It can be, but just by in and of itself, it isn't. So I agree with Adam in this. I would vote yes here. Now, 3, will there be a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians? Lisa?
I believe there will be a nuisance or serious hazard to any of the children. Any of the children wanting to get on the buses? Yes, I think there'll be a serious hazard.
Okay. Okay, well, we have to look at it in the negative, I'm sorry, so, and that's my fault. There will be, do you agree that there will be no nuisance or serious hazard?
I do not agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, putting up with me. Ann?
Sorry, I didn't hear this before.
The answer is no.
Thank you, sorry.
Well, our site visit helped me understand that the dead-end road that Sylvan Way currently enjoys is by itself, without it adding additional 40, without it adding more traffic, people were already having a hazard with vehicles and pedestrians on that road. And I'm actually surprised there haven't been more reported accidents. So I believe that's a no, and it has nothing to do with the application. It has, certainly the increased traffic is a concern, but I think Sylvan Way is not wide enough. for the people who currently live there.
Thank you. That's a no. Adam?
I would say that, we have in front of us no nuisance or, so it gives us an or here.
Exactly.
In terms of serious hazard to vehicles, pedestrians, there's a potential anywhere for that to occur. But by the size of the road, the tightness of it, the fact there's no sidewalk, and then coupled with the increased use of that road as a result directly for the use of the property that's being applied for, I think that there easily could be seen nuisance or hazard to vehicles and pedestrians as a result of the use. So from that perspective, I would say no.
Okay. Brian?
So Sylvan Way is kind of a funny little street.
Isn't it?
Goes straight down, but then Sylvan Way goes off to the right, but yeah, it's a different road, but it's the same road, so go figure. So I think if we put a roundabout there.
Perfect.
What?
Careful.
I think that we saw tonight with the few vehicles that were on the street, that there was, a cluster just getting off the street. That to me was evidence of what it could be if you double the size of the population on the street. So I say no.
Okay. Just note that. To me, a nuisance is a pretty low bar, so I'm really careful there because it can just be an annoyance. And I think something annoying is different probably to you than it would be to me. That could be the very same thing. But I don't believe I see a serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians if this was approved. It's a low speed street. I don't see a lot of that happening. I think that people have learned and will learn how to maneuver that. I'm a little concerned about just a nuisance though. This for I think a number of things that have been said here tonight to us, testimony we've heard. A nuisance is a relatively low bar, so that could be. So I can't say there would be no nuisance if this was approved, and that's what we're approving. I guess I'm in the no. I am in the no category as well. Last question. Do we agree that adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use? And
This is a question that involves more of the planning board.
that's what the zoning board has to deal with.
That we would answer if there's any restrictions that we would put on, because I've heard from the applicant so many things that weren't addressed. And information that we didn't necessarily have a whole picture of. So for the proposed use, which is residential, I would think that with effort, adequate and appropriate could be provided.
Given the testimony you've heard, do you believe it would?
But I don't think it's an appropriate location. So.
Well, that was sort of, that's
Okay,
that was a thought.
I guess I'll have to be a yes.
Okay, thank you. Adam?
I think the applicant has been thorough in addressing the uses and the facilities that be needed, the operation of that use in terms of both parking, proper sewage and water, and all the things that are associated to this particular use that we've heard, including waste management, and it would also sound like property management on top of that. So from that perspective, I don't see evidence that they would not and have not adequately at least defined a path towards that. So from that perspective, I would say yes. That for this answer, so yes.
Thank you. Brian?
I think appropriate facilities, based on their testimony and presentation, sure, they've covered that. I think they've done a pretty good job with that. Adequate, however, ladder trucks 40 feet, ladder overhang, add another 5 or 10 feet. You're not going to turn that around in there, and you can't get behind the back building with the ladder truck. So water supply is a dead end. It's dead-headed there. I mean, I think it's appropriate. Facilities, yes, it's just not adequate.
Okay, so a no. Lisa?
I also agree it's not adequate. You don't have testimony that it could be adequate.
Okay.
Can I say?
Sorry, I
Sure.
can't hear you, Lisa, I'm sorry.
No, not adequate.
Okay,
Great,
thank you.
thank you. Go ahead, Jay.
I just want to point out that if we were to approve this project, the planning board would then work with the developer to make sure a lot of these things would be worked out. And on the basis of what I see on the site plan, I don't see how the parking and the required landscaping can exist on this property, the way it's laid out. Now, maybe the buildings could be reconfigured, maybe the whole architectural plan could be changed, but I don't see how the adequate landscaping can be provided, given the amount of parking lot that's there and the site plan regulations that require 10% of the lot to be there. So I just want to point out that it's a hard thing to say, because if we were to approve it, the planning board would say, well, it's approved. The density is approved. It's all done. We just have to work to make it happen. And I don't want that to go out of here with that question, those questions unanswered that I don't think can be answered. I think that's happened before, and I don't want to see it happen again.
Thank you. I believe that given what we've been presented tonight, that adequate and appropriate facilities would be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use. So I'm a yes here. All right. We're at the end of our questions. I'll just give you a recap. Question number 1, we had 5 no's, that is not similar to one or more uses authorized in the district, and it is an appropriate location for such a use. And I think most of the testimony kind of focused on the location. Second question was 3 no's and 2 yeses, that it would not reduce the value of any property within the district. So those 3 no's said that they felt it would either reduce the value of the property or be injurious, obnoxious, or offensive to the neighborhood. And I think we really focused on the latter, not so much the value of the property, but the injurious, obnoxious, or offensive issues that the board felt. Question number 3 were all no's. We did not agree that there would be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. And the 4th one, interestingly, we have 3 yeses and 2 no's. That's the only one that might have carried, relative to adequate and appropriate facilities for the proper operation. Unless there's some more deliberation, I think I'd entertain a motion on this from the sitting members.
Motion, Karazinski.
I'd like to make a motion for ZBA 23-015 special exception application that, based on our information that we have, that we not move forward with this application. This will be a no.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have it moved and seconded to deny the application for special exception by Ann and seconded by Lisa. All those in favor of this motion, please indicate, raise your right hand. Okay. It is unanimous.
The only other thing that I would say is that to remind the board that for the next 30 days, we cannot discuss this case.
That's right. From this point forward, the applicant can appeal. So we have to kind of zip it for 30 days until we get past that appeal period. Ann? No. They're right.
Could I say something, sir? I just want to say thank you for the appearance. I appreciate
Thank you. All right.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from July 17th.
We did not take that motion?
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, you did that already?
Yeah, I think we did that.
I moved that and Rand seconded it. And we voted.
Oh, you moved that. Oh, well, look at that.
I got to move it
We'll
because
let
I
the
was
dust
here.
settle here, then we'll see if there's any other.
Regional
In the
impact.
meantime, we're looking for the zoning books, the ones that go from the state for all the members. Do usually everybody get one? Do we usually do like on the office? How would you like to do that going forward?
I didn't hear a word you said.
So, sorry, the zoning books that come from the state.
Can we quiet down a little bit, please? We still have a meeting going on.
Thank you. The books that come from the state, the zoning books.
Yes.
Would you like copies?
He's here.
Zoning Board of Adjustment Handbook for local officials?
Yeah.
No, not.
That's
not
our
that
ordinance.
One. That one might be right, the 2021 version, but there's a more recent version.
Oh.
You would like the more recent?
Yeah.
Yes, I can get you a PDF.
Yeah, I still have the 18.
I would like the more recent.
Yes, there is, but that one's to 2022, not to 2023. 2023 has the most recent. I'll tell you what those are.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Physical or digital?
Yeah.
Physical, please.
Physical.
Physical.
Everybody physical, and do you want digital? I can request one.
No, physical.
What, on like a thumb drive or something?
Usually it's like a link that they'll send you.
Yeah. I'll just go electronic.
I believe we voted to start in September to meet at 6:30. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to be sure everybody.
Yeah, that's our next month. Thank you for reminding me.
I was
would have
gonna
been
ask
late.
that question, so we have officially at 6:30 on Thursdays.
Saturday.
I'm sorry, Mondays.
Mondays.
Saturdays.
No.
Yeah,
Someone still help me, but I'm not opposed to it if you want to change.
Okay, we haven't adjourned yet, and you have,
7 o'clock.
Do you have
is a
anything?
Good number for me, but.
7's a good number for me,
seven's a
too.
good number for me. And, yeah, that's all.
So I have a question.
Is she no?
go ahead.
So we did this for Sarah, and Sarah's gone. It's still a benefit to Jose Pablo over here. So do we want to keep it at 6:30 and move it back to 7?
Well, what do you want?
I personally think 7 is a good time. I mean, a half hour doesn't help me.
Okay.
And it's nice to be able to do dinner before I leave.
Yeah, because I haven't had dinner.
Yeah, I haven't had dinner either.
And I got 2
I'm
kids.
not
I
wasting
couldn't.
away.
All right, so
Great.
keep it. So no change. No
You know how that
change. Keep
happens,
it.
I would like to say, I'd like to move that now, do we have to publish
Just
this
a second,
again?
just a second.
Yeah, we'd have to republish it. It'd be the same thing that we did.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for your
Good for you.
comments. Do we have to, do we have to meet at 6:30 because we voted we would meet at 6:30 and people
No,
might
no,
come?
no, I mean, you can make those changes accordingly. It's kind of like last time, you made a motion to do so. We would have to renotice it, so we'd have to give it a buffer period. So that's, I think what we did last time was 2 months, I believe.
Well, I know, so we're saying October will be at 7, but
Yeah,
6:30 for September?
That'd be correct.
Okay, so I would like to move that starting in October, we meet at 7 again.
Okay.
Somebody second that?
Well, it depends. Are we hiring Sarah back in October?
Yeah, we might have to turn it around.
Try.
Field stuff.
Not for 7 though.
We have a motion and a second to yes. Yep. To have our meetings continue at 7 p.m. moving forward in October. We'll have a 6:30 meeting in September.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's vote on that.
All right. All those in favor?
Sure.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah.
You just ruined his life.
Now I'm leaving.
During this meeting, concerns to the public about how their community was zoned. So when and that frequently comes up.
Yeah.
People just do not know, even within their own district, where they live. They don't know how they are zoned.
Mhm.
They don't know. And it sounded like they were going to go to the selectmen